Okay, I didn't really want to make another video about this, but y'all crazy. So I said before that my videos are not really designed to get you to believe anything. They mainly exist to encourage you to think critically and honestly about certain topics and to possibly broaden your perspective. However, in order for you to think honestly and critically, there are some things you do have to believe. Those things are called facts. And contentious subjects like this seem to often have the unfortunate effect of getting people to believe shit that isn't true. To quote Al Franken,
"We are entitled to our own opinions. We're not entitled to our own facts."
So in a new segment that I'm going to call #Facts, I'm going to be going over some of the misconceptions, some may even call them lies, about Black Lives Matter. Okay, first myth, cops kill white people at the same rate or at a higher rate than they do black people in America. This is false. In 2015, about half of the victims of police shootings were white and about 30% of them were black. Since black people make up only 13% of the American population, that's clearly disproportionate. Now, the common response to this is the idea that since black people commit more violent crime, that means that police are more likely to be in their community, which means that black people are more likely to get into confrontations with the police, which means that black people are more likely to be killed by the police. This is false. This is very sneaky speculation. You have to notice it's not based on any facts or any statistics. It's just a justification that sounds kind of right, even though it was pulled out of thin air. This image graphs the results of the 2015 year-end police violence report, comparing the rates at which cops kill U.S. citizens in the 60 largest cities in America. The red squares represent police killing rates and the blue X's represent violent crime rates. Notice how there's no correlation whatsoever. That is just a complete myth. Okay, next up, Black Lives Matter promotes segregation. This is not outright false, but it's intentionally misleading. First of all, this represents a common tactic that I find dishonest that people use when they're criticizing Black Lives Matter. What you have to understand is that BLM is not some cohesive national organization with a central bureaucracy. It's an international coalition of separate but related movements. The overall vision is the same, but the Black Lives Matter movement in Toronto may have different goals and tactics than the Black Lives Matter movement in Nashville. For example, if you go to demands.org, you'll find 76 different lists of demands from black groups in universities across the nation. Black Lives Matter is not some homogenous hive mind, so it's important to look at things within their context. So this particular misconception refers to BLM groups in places like Nashville and UCLA that have requested spaces for black people to come together and connect and feel safe. A couple of these groups, not all of them, but some of them have called for these spaces to be designated for people of color only. Personally, I think it's fair to criticize this idea. I don't fully agree with it myself, but calling it segregation is intentionally provocative and dishonest. It's only segregation in the way that not allowing men into a women's health center is segregation, or not allowing a 10-year-old into a bar is segregation. To me, this sounds like an intentional smear tactic to make something sound worse than it actually is. Okay, next up, Black Lives Matter supports the killing of cops. This is false. And this is kind of where the video is going to start winding down, because from here on, it's mostly just cherry-picked examples, which are often taken out of context and designed to misrepresent the movement. I can't respond to each and every claim, of course, but I can provide way more examples of Black Lives Matter protesters peacefully gathering and condemning violence than you can do the opposite. I'm sure of it. I challenge you. Feel free to email me if you want to battle. A particularly egregious example of cherry picking that I keep seeing over and over again is this video, which allegedly shows protesters in New York calling for the death of cops. Now, this was shot after the Millions March NYC, which took place on December 13, 2014, and it was an organized protest of the death of Eric Garner. Notice how it's nighttime in the video. The officially organized protest lasted from about 2 p.m. to 6 p.m., but after it ended, a few people continued to walk the streets and organize and protest. But at that time, the organizers of the march sent out a tweet saying that any further activity was not organized by their group. They later clarified this by saying that although they didn't organize these events, they do support all non-violent activity in support of their message. So basically what people have done is taken this video to highlight this group of people that had nothing to do with the main organization, and using that to mischaracterize the movement as a whole. The fact that some people choose to share that video instead of this video from the actual organized protest, to me, shows clear cherry picking in an attempt to misrepresent the Black Lives Matter movement.
I can't breathe! I can't breathe! I can't breathe!
And personally, I'm suspicious of that video anyway, because people have already been caught doctoring videos to make BLM look bad.
At this rally in Washington, D.C., participants chanted, "We won't stop, we can't stop, so kill a cop." We won't stop! We won't stop! We can't stop! We can't stop! So kill a cop! So kill a cop! We won't stop! We won't stop! We can't stop! We can't stop! So kill a cop! So kill a cop! I sound black! I sound black! We won't
But this kind of represents the gist of most BLM criticisms. It's just overt and lazy cherry picking, finding the worst examples and ignoring everything that doesn't confirm their biases. You can easily find out the goals of Black Lives Matter if you just take an honest look. In a recent response to the murders of police officers in Dallas on the BLM website, it stated, "Black activists have raised the call for an end to violence, not an escalation of it. To assign the actions of one person to an entire movement is dangerous and irresponsible." Other statements you can find on the same website: "We are committed to practicing empathy. We engage comrades with the intent to learn about and connect with their context. And we are committed to embodying and practicing justice, liberation, and peace in our engagements with one another." It's very clear to any honest person that Black Lives Matter does not support violence or black supremacy. But of course, it's going to be hard to see that when you've got a preconceived bias and you ignore all evidence to the contrary, including the hundreds of peaceful demonstrations across the world, dozens of examples of protesters condemning violence when it happens, and even the official statements of the fucking group you're criticizing. So those of you that have that bias, now this video is not going to change your mind because you don't care about what's true. But to those of you who do care about what's true, I encourage you to be thorough in your research and to not stop looking once you found a thing that confirms your bias. I don't think Black Lives Matter is perfect, and I don't agree with everything they do and say. But I also don't like when people purposely and disingenuously misrepresent a movement and pass it off as fact, misleading lots of people in the process. Thank you once again for watching my video. For those that don't know, I'm a full-time YouTube creator, and the only way that I'm able to do that is through your support, and a large portion of that support comes through Patreon. Now, Patreon is a crowdfunding site for people like me with ongoing creative projects. It's kind of like an online tip jar where you can set it up to donate just a couple bucks every time I make a new video. So if you find any value in my channel or my videos, or if you just want to support me, please consider signing up for Patreon. That would be super amazing and totally appreciated. But even if you don't feel like it, or if you can't, that's fine too. I just thank you for watching.